Oh my god, Indie Pride, why are you uploading Star Wars Battlefront content? This is a Total War channel. You're such a douchebag. Seriously, like, you're not unique, you're not...
Shut up!
As I'm sure you're all aware by now, the Star Wars Battlefront Beta has launched as of October 8th, 2015 on Origin. So if you play any EA games or feel a raging desire to download that god-awful client, you can get access to some Star Wars goodness for the next 5 days with no beta code necessary. If you all didn't already know, the Battlefront series is widely considered the best Star Wars experience in gaming and beloved by millions, so when it was announced that DICE would be continuing the series after Pandemic Studios was shut down, public reaction was understandably balanced between glee and trepidation. A lot of people grew up playing the Battlefront series, myself included, and there's a serious nostalgia factor that makes it really difficult for a new Star Wars game to live up to the hype. Adding to the pressure of revisiting the series, Electronic Arts is one of the most hated companies in America and probably the most hated publisher in gaming, so every missing feature or balance issue in Battlefront is going to be under a big ol' microscope. And while EA currently is too big to fail as a company, especially from a single release, it's guaranteed to sell millions of units for them. A poor release for Battlefront would cause some serious backlash from consumers. People have been wanting a true sequel to Battlefront since 2005, more than a decade ago. So, is Battlefront worthy of the name, and is it a true successor to the first two Star Wars Battlefront games? In short, I think this game does a lot of things really well, and most importantly, the beta is really fun. But there are also some decisions EA and DICE have made that are going to piss off a lot of people if they haven't already, and frankly, I'm kind of worried about how much content's going to be in the final game. If you're a huge fan of single-player games, I can tell you right now, this game is not going to be worth your money. In keeping with EA's long history of disappointing customers, Galactic Conquest Mode, Space Battles, the Clone Wars, and Story Mode will not be included in the final release of Battlefront. To many, the lack of these features is a slap in the face of the franchise, kind of myself included in that category, and EA and DICE stated they were removing some of these modes so they could focus on multiplayer, but they're still charging $60 for the full game. Are we going to start seeing Call of Duty or other franchises split their campaign and single-player features away from multiplayer into two separate $60 games? That idea sounds kind of ridiculous, but, I mean, frankly, the way the gaming industry has been going the last few years, I don't think it'd be all that surprising if that was a theme that we started seeing more and more. Personally, I'm most annoyed about Galactic Conquest and the Clone Wars not making the final release. I'm sure most of you know what the Clone Wars are and why it would have been awesome, like in Battlefront 2, to have two separate conflicts to join, and 4 separate factions instead of just Empire vs. Rebels, which is what this iteration of Battlefront will be. So I'll spare you on that. But, at least in my opinion, Galactic Conquest is the most recognizable game mode in Battlefront, and the fact that they aren't including it or a single-player campaign like the 501st Legion campaign in Battlefront 2, I mean, that's going to hurt sales for the final game. There's no question. Unequivocally, there are going to be a lot of people who don't buy this game now because of lack of Battlefront's most iconic game modes. Are enough people going to take a stand and not buy that EA will even deign to notice or care about those people? Nope! There's a single-player and co-op survival mode that's fun for a bit, but I think it's going to get dull pretty quickly, and frankly, EA and DICE have already said they don't care. They effectively don't care about single-player players for this game, which I think is the wrong move, and it's just not surprising coming from EA. Yeah, it's not going to be enough. That certainly won't be enough for people pissed off about Campaign or Galactic Conquest. That single-player mode, the co-op survival mode, it's not going to be enough for them. DICE did say that they wanted to focus on multiplayer for this release, so let's talk about it a bit. There is no class system in this game, like in previous Battlefronts. There's no engineer, there's no medic, there's no sniper, there's no assault class. Instead, you basically just choose your primary blaster and then 2 pieces of equipment to go with it. Your equipment doesn't have ammunition, instead it has a set cooldown. So, for example, the cycler rifle is the game's new version of a sniper rifle, and it has a cooldown of 7 seconds after each shot. Every time you shoot it, you have to wait 7 seconds before you can take it out and shoot again, but you have unlimited ammunition. It seems like most people bring the cycler rifle to battles that I've seen so far, because it kind of gives you that ability to take out opponents from long range with a headshot, and most primary blasters are quite good from short to mid range, so you need something for those long range engagements. The jetpack is also the one I've seen the most. It's extremely useful and it's a lot of fun to use. Good for like a quick getaway or just to position yourself on the high ground, position yourself somewhere where they won't expect to see you. There are also grenades and a personal force field that can be equipped, but like I said, the sniper and jetpack seem the most useful from what I've seen so far. I can't say I dislike the new equipment system, but Battlefield and Battlefront both are known for having class systems, and the formula has worked well for both of them for more than a decade, so I'm not really sure why they're changing it now. A couple notes on gameplay. You can no longer be suppressed like in Battlefield 4 when you're taking fire, and there's no bullet drop. Of course, you're shooting superheated beams of light, so there's no bullet drop there. There is actually projectile travel time though, so you have to lead your target if you're shooting at people who are running horizontally to you, trying to hit them on the run. Third and first person mode are both in the game, which is a really nice throwback to the first two Battlefront games. I've just recently started playing, but I've just started experimenting with third person mode today, on Friday, and I think it's better than first person mode. You have to move your mouse less to aim in third person, which is a nice feature of it, but you also get a much better view of your surroundings and what's around you, and can see around cover as well, so that's really helpful. It's kind of like you have wall hacks. There's also a new power-up system in this game that I think is interesting. To get into a vehicle or control a hero, or get access to limited but like powerful equipment like a rocket launcher, you have to run over these holograms that are kind of scattered across the map. And so far, I've gotten a couple cool ones. I was the gunner for an ATAT once, and got to use Darth Vader once as well. The ATAT gunner is pretty OP from what I've gotten to use and from what I've seen in my games. You get a full minute inside this death machine that basically just rains death on everything. It kills everything it touches. It's pretty ridiculous, and whoever gets the AT-AT invariably gets the most kills in that game by far. I've seen people go like 60-3 because they got the AT-AT twice. But the Jedi heroes so far don't seem too broken. It's actually pretty easy to surround and kill them because people kind of get overzealous with the heroes, and they'll usually only get like a handful of kills before they get shot down. Make no mistake, if they sneak into your spawn and you don't see them coming, they can wreck an entire squad in just a few seconds though. So they are powerful. It's just easy to shoot them if you see them coming. So let's talk about visuals and sound design for a second. Visually, I think the game is absolutely stunning. It just looks gorgeous. Like, pretty much everything about it looks beautiful. There's a sense of scope to the battles in Battlefront and Battlefield that I don't think any other game has ever really matched before. Battle of Hoth in this game is massive, and it's glorious to watch unfold. For example, when I first saw the sprawling line of trenches and defenses where the rebels make their last stand on this map, and like I ran forward with like the AT-AT walkers behind me, X-Wings and TIE fighters fighting overhead, and orbital strikes raining down in front of me, like I just felt really immersed in the Star Wars universe. And I think that they've been true to the lore, which I think is really cool. DICE does massive scale combat better than pretty much any other developer in my opinion. Sound design is another integral part, of course, of immersion in a game. Like the sound of TIE fighters screaming past, it's got that very iconic sound. The sound of blasters, the hum of lightsabers, all of those are very authentic and true to the lore, and I think that what we've seen on film goes really well with what I see in the game. Like it just sounds really authentic to me. Of particular note, two sound effects that I think are really cool in this game are the orbital strikes, and there are these incendiary power-up grenades that you can throw, and they sound really awesome when they go off. There's some really cool, unique, and cool sound effects in this game, and I think DICE has always had some of the most immersive sound design in gaming, in my opinion. I mean, even dating back to like Battlefield Bad Company, I've always been impressed with the sounds of the weapons, the force of explosions, like just the feeling of being suppressed in cover, and the weight of my character as I move and sprint across the ground. They do sound design really, really well. There are some things about the sound in this game that I don't like though. I think the soundtrack doesn't have anywhere near enough iconic music from the movies. There needs to be 1000% more Duel of Fates when the Empire is pushing the Rebel base. And I'm hoping that some of the more iconic tracks, like Duel of Fates will play more regularly in the final game. I have my doubts about that. But I also think Darth Vader's voice in this is kind of weird. It sounds off to me. I'm not sure what it is, and I'm curious if anyone else has heard his voice and thought that he doesn't sound quite right. To me, the servers are really impressive so far. I don't think I've ever gotten in a game so quickly and smoothly in my life. Queue times are less than a second for me, and while I've had a few hit detection issues, it hasn't been pervasive or serious, and lag is minimal to non-existent in all of my games. So that from that standpoint, the connection's really good. I've seen Luke Skywalker vibrating dead on the ground a couple times when he dies, but other than that, there haven't really been any glaring glitches or bugs, so beta is running pretty smooth so far. But ultimately, what you guys want to know is, do you think it's worth the money? Is it worth $60? Should I buy the game? Obviously, that's up to you. I'm just here to give you another opinion. But if you love Battlefield multiplayer, you'll probably love this game as long as sci-fi doesn't bother you. If you don't like sci-fi or Star Wars, you're not going to like the game. Obviously, that's pretty straightforward. If you love Star Wars and want a great multiplayer experience, you're probably going to want to pick this up as well. And if you want single-player modes, and if you're a single-player player, well, EA and DICE are not about that action boss. So spend your money elsewhere. Like, this game is not going to be for you. If you love single-player games, this game is not going to be for you. There's just the one game mode, the survival game mode, and it's kind of a throwaway, honestly, in my opinion. If I did choose to buy this game, which I'm thinking about, of course, I know that I'd get $60 worth of entertainment out of it. I know every Battlefield game I've ever played, I've spent at least 24 hours of gameplay on, and I think I spent like 300 or 400 hours on Battlefield 2. So I put a lot of time into that game. So from that standpoint, yeah, $60 is absolutely worth 24 hours of entertainment for me. I mean, hell, I spend $15 to see a 2-hour movie all the time. So we'll have to see how they handle the other game modes and other maps to truly know if this game's worth the money. But it is fun. The beta is fun, and that's an important part of gaming that some people sometimes forget about. I think if you're on the fence on whether to get it or not, after seeing all this gameplay people have been posting on YouTube, you probably should wait until the price drops to get it. But if you're excited for the game, I think you'll be entertained by it, and I think it will probably be worth your money. I will probably end up getting it on release, not guaranteed. I haven't quite made my decision yet, but I'm thinking about it. Because I just have disposable income, and I like the Battlefield series and like the Battlefront series, regardless of some of the missteps that DICE and EA, of course, have made along the way. But undoubtedly, there are going to be people disappointed with the lack of features in this game, and I can't blame them for that at all. The lack of single-player features in this game is a problem, and I respect anyone who votes with their wallet and decides not to get it because some of those features didn't make it in. But that's it. I hope this was helpful to you and gave you a little bit more of a perspective on the game, and I hope Total War fans of mine enjoyed the brief departure from Total War. I'll maybe post a couple gameplays of this. It won't be a staple of the channel, of course. But other than that, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all later. Andy Pride signing out. Peace.